I'm so glad you're doing it because I only had a couple of ladies. I don't know if they're scared of doing that. You know,
No.
we had Lara Robuena, Kaya Yuan, Luisa Stefani, a couple of ladies, you know, and it's an honor to have you here. Thank you for doing this, Monica.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Monica, I know we don't have a lot of time. I want to ask you just a couple of questions. So, first
Sure.
of all, how I like ask everybody, how did you start? Did your parents start you, or did you?
Yes. So my parents, my mom in particular, gave me my first tennis racket when I was 6 years old. But before then, I always copied my brother. I have an older brother of 3 years. So he did baseball, swimming. He did a bunch of sports, but it was never really for me until my mom was like, okay, why don't you try tennis? And I fell in love with it. And I haven't been able to let go of a tennis racket since.
Wow. All right, and then so you started you were born in Puerto Rico,
I was, yes.
and then you started playing there. How is it in? It's always interesting, you know. We had so many people, and every country is different. So how is tennis in Puerto Rico? Is it still something that rich people like rich, but like it's people that with money can only afford, or does it slowly
No,
become
it's been
accessible?
accessible. It is very accessible, especially for the little kids. You know, they started with the whole concept of the mini tennis and all that, but tennis isn't our strong suit in sports. We're more about the baseball, the
Hmm.
basketball, and boxing. Those are the big sports, and soccer is actually becoming very big as well.
Hmm.
Tennis after the Olympics picked up more, so now more kids are wanting to get into the little classes and all of that. And you know, we have a pretty good Fed Cup team as well. So it's not the biggest sport, but I'm glad to see that after the Olympics it grew a little bit more.
So how did you do that then? When you know when not too many people play, like when you started, like there are a lot, but what about tournaments and everything? How did you get to the level where you are? Like how did you develop that over there?
Well, I grew up playing here in Miami. So
Okay.
after I was born, after about like a year and a half, my dad's business relocated here to Miami.
Okay.
So this is where I grew up and where I started playing tennis. And so I started playing the little tournaments around Florida and
Hmm.
then nationally as well. And then I started internationally competing at 14, 15 years old.
Okay.
And so that's when I got into like the ITF circuit and all of that. But really, I was always the last one of the last to do anything. I was never really the best. I never really had the higher ranking.
Hmm.
I was always kind of like the last one to arrive at the party. So, you know, it's just levels. You go through levels and you get better, you get more confidence, you learn how to compete, you learn how to be an athlete. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got to where I am today is just going through all of those levels and learning.
That's like yeah, like Dusan Lajovic, a good friend of mine. Obviously, you know him from the tour. He's like 20 something in the world. He also, you know, he told me too. Like it took him longer than others, but obviously in our days, you know, the curve shifted, right? So you have more time to develop, and I think that's important when we teach the juniors not to put too much pressure on them, that they have a little bit
Yes.
more time, right? So
It's very important because I feel like, you know, even in the juniors, you could be ranked 60 something, you know, in the world or never really be at the top. And all of a sudden in professional, you just find it. And, you know, you have so much time, you know, to grow, to mature. I feel like that's the thing that's the toughest when you're transitioning between the junior and the professional. The game starts getting faster, but also the players start getting smarter.
yeah.
So that's like it takes a time to adapt and to kind of process that information over, and then you start really getting into it.
So did you, when you, one of the questions was that I got, when you transitioned to professional level, did you get a lot of wild cards or did you have to work your way up?
No, I got one or two wild cards. I got one into a tournament here in Florida, which
Hmm.
was in Ponte Vedra, and there I lost in the last round of qualifying to actually to Bethany Maddox Sands in 3 sets. And then I lost in the last round of qualifying in Charleston.
Okay.
But those are the only real wild cards that I got when I was just
Yeah.
starting. So I went through the 10,000s, the
Wow.
25,000s, 50s. So I did the whole thing
The whole-
up. Obviously, once I was like closer to 100 and stuff like that, I was managed by IMG. So I got a wild card into the qualifying of Indian Wells, Miami, but never like main draw wild card when I was nothing. So, I mean, I went through the levels. I went proving myself at every point. And I think that that was honestly one of the best things, because I saw tennis for what it was and how hungry I needed to be to get there. So you see the difference. And then, you know, sometimes when you're at the top of the game and you're staying in these beautiful hotels, you're going to these tournaments where you have great food, you have everything pretty much handed to you, and you see from where you came at 10,000s where it's not the same thing, and you're just kind of like, I did all of this. So when you find yourself like doubting in yourself and you're like, I did this.
This is
so
great.
I got here, I earned this. Now let me give it everything that I have, because I worked hard to be here.
I think that is so important. And then, as you said, you know, you played all through all levels, and every stage has a different, the challengers have different challenges, right? Then the 10,000, the 25, the 50. So everything is different. And that's one question I had. And I want all the girls that are watching, and boys as well, you know, when you trained, you know, so many parents always say, hey, my kid needs to train only with the best, if not, we leave. And, you know, I do that since a long time now, and I used to play too, you know, and it's just so funny to me. Did you ever have a problem to play with someone that's weaker than you?
No, honestly, you know, the way it was for me, even my mom was this way. She says, how do you expect yourself to want to compete with the best if you cannot compete with the people who are at your same level? So, you know, I always, definitely, everybody always wants to be with the best. Everybody always wants to be at the court with the big kids who play harder, who play stronger. And usually you have no pressure. So yeah, of course you're going to play better. But when you play against somebody that you grew up with, who's at your same level and everything like that, it gets to be a little bit difficult, because you feel pressure to beat them. You know that you have to beat them, and this and that. There's something to prove. So for me, it was always like, you cannot go to the next level until you don't prove yourself at the one that you are at.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, I can.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. No, that was for me very important, you know. So before to get that, because so many, you know, it's a reoccurring thing, you know, like that especially parents think. And then, as you said, you know, if you can't beat someone who's your level, you know, it's no need to play up, you know, and like no need to do it. So you know, it tells a lot about your personality, and then about, you know, maturity as well. Like, you know, like you said, when you played through all that, that's awesome. That was really nice to hear. So let's the Olympic Games. So, I mean, you know, this is so massive. I can't just imagine what, like, I wish I could imagine what you felt when you won that. But it's every 4 years. You know, I looked at the draw as well again. Serena played. Everybody played, right? And then you play for Puerto Rico, right?
Yes.
And I mean, so you beat Muguruza, you beat Kvitova, and then you play Kerber in the final. So just tell us a little bit in the final. I think you split sets with her, right? And then so what is that pressure? Like, you know, compare. You know, you're there. It's every 4 years. You have one more set to play on the changeover to the third set. And how is that compared to a Grand Slam? I mean, you went deep into Grand Slams, but what is the difference there? That's so interesting to hear. You know?
Honestly, it's crazy when you are at the Olympics. First of all, I had qualified literally on the last opportunity to qualify to go to Rio, which was making the third round at the French Open. If I did not make the third round, I was out.
Wow.
So the fact that I made the third round, I lost the next round, obviously, because, you know, your mind is just kind of like, oh, I did it. That's it. But you're just there. Honestly, the final was the easiest match for me, I felt like, emotionally, because I had already secured a medal. So I kind of took that pressure off. I think the semifinal was definitely the match that was the most stressful, because if you lost, you don't have a guaranteed medal. You have to come back the next day and play to win a medal. So I kind of took the pressure off, and I just told myself that day, you know, you never know in 4 years what's going to happen, if you're going to be in the same position again, if you're even going to be playing tennis. You don't know. So just go out onto the court and enjoy yourself and soak up the entire experience, the moment, etc. So I won the first set and I got really nervous in the second because I made the situation so much bigger than what it had to be. And that third set, I just told myself, you see what happens when you get ahead of yourself and you know, make the thing. In the first set, I was just having fun and I was enjoying. I was like, okay, in this third set, just go out and enjoy it. Whatever happens, you've proved to yourself that you can compete at this level. You've proven to everybody that, you know, this is you. You don't have anything else to prove. So just go out there and have fun. And I think that set lasted like 15 minutes. I was like, I don't think I heard anything in that third set. I was like in the zone. I did not hear the crowd or anything. And at 5-0, it's like, I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm at one game away from winning this thing. Like, what's happening? And then when I won it, it was just, you know, pinch me. Am I dreaming? Or did this actually happen? It was honestly the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I don't think me winning a Grand Slam will compare to that feeling, or even another Olympics. It won't compare to that first thing because it's something that I've always wanted for the longest time. And it was so big for me and so big for Puerto Rico. And they always say that you're
the first that won a gold medal. I mean, like that's history, right? So
they always say that your first big success is going to be your favorite, and nothing is going to compare to that. And I think they're right, because that was something that I never expected myself to do. I always hoped and wished that it would, and the fact that I have it, and it gave me some beautiful experiences. I got to meet so many interesting people along the way. It's just outstanding.
I mean, yeah, like so deserved, and I was so happy when you won. So that's unreal. You know, for normal people, that's something I guess all the players, you know, they were asking themselves how that must feel like compared to the Grand Slams. And then Monica, and then we have Yo No Me Quito. So if you wanna do that si quieres hacerlo en español, porque tenemos un montón de hispanohablantes. So pues Yo No Me
English,
Quito.
Spanish, anything.
Let's do Spanish, this one. So that's para familias afectadas de corona. ¿Eso es correcto?
Yeah.
Sí, pues cuéntanos algo sobre eso, por favor.
Sí, Yo No Me Quito es una fundación en Puerto Rico que ayuda a todo el pueblo en momentos de crisis. Yo me uní a Yo No Me Quito por la primera vez después del huracán María, que yo fui a Puerto Rico a darle comida, agua, mensaje de esperanza a la gente de Puerto Rico después de ese desastre de huracán que pasó por Puerto Rico. Y ahora me llamaron de nuevo para hacer lo mismo para el coronavirus y las familias afectadas. Y me gusta Yo No Me Quito porque se maneja con dos personas muy especiales en mi vida, de Carlos López Lai y su esposa, que son los que crearon la fundación y son muy, muy buena gente, muy queridas. Y me dieron la oportunidad de unirme a ese gran proyecto, y hoy en día seguimos tratando de hacer la diferencia en Puerto Rico y a la gente que vivan una vida más tranquila a pesar de todo lo que ha pasado en Puerto Rico.
Y para mí es un mensaje muy fuerte. Yo no me quito eso. Es algo que no deberíamos hacer en la vida en general. No quitar, siempre intentar lograr lo que deseamos y lo que queremos, y no quitar. Para mí eso es muy, muy fuerte. A mí me gusta cuando lo vi. Yo quería preguntarte y si me quieres mandar información cuando terminamos, yo voy a ponerlo en todos mis internet channels también, porque para mí ayudar a otros es algo importante en la vida. Es como mis padres me crecieron, y si yo puedo ayudar con algo, yo voy a ponerlo en todos mis channels y todo, y
Muchas
espero
gracias.
que hay personas que lo ven y que van a ayudar.